everybody. Welcome to CarnivorousGrama Speaks. My name is Robin here, and I am your Carnivorous Grandma. I'm super excited to be here with my good friend George. Hey, George.
Hey, Robin, how you doing? You all right?
Doing
Are you
good,
well?
doing
Yeah,
good. Thank you so
good.
much for being
Brilliant.
here
Yeah.
with me tonight. We're here to hear George's story tonight. I'm going to say that George is from the UK, so it's pretty late his time. So I
Half past
appreciate you
10, half
coming
past
on.
10 over here.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I appreciate you staying up late with me tonight to hang out and talk about you. This is all about George, the George story tonight. So, George, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is George Goodenough. I'm 60 years of age and I live in the town of Bridgewater in Somerset in the southwest of England. So that's my basic story. And just a quick one for you, though, Robin. I think you live in Kalamazoo in Michigan. Is that correct?
Kalamazoo,
That's
Michigan. That's right.
That is such a great
USA.
name because there is a song which involves a cat called Kalamazoo, I think. Which when I heard that you were from Kalamazoo, that song immediately the sort of jumped into my head. So yeah, it was I'll always remember where you live because you live in Kalamazoo.
That's
So
right.
yeah,
I think
that's
there's a
yeah,
couple of
yeah,
different songs, and like there's this saying like, "Yes, there really is a Kalamazoo. Yes, there really is," and I'm here in Kalamazoo. Yes, Kalamazoo,
that's great.
Michigan,
That's, yeah,
USA.
exactly. Yeah. So I also play a game called Carnivore Bingo. Because basically what I've done is put a map of the United States up, and there are 50
Nice.
states in the US of A, and
That's
you
right.
are my carnivore friend in Michigan. And
Oh,
I
nice.
actually have at least one carnivore friend who I know who on a personal basis in 37 of the 50
Wow.
states.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm still looking for a few. No, I'm looking for Arkansas, although there is a lady turned up on the KMT from Arkansas. So I'm hoping to engage her in chat and I'll be able to pick that one off.
There we
But
go.
it's
There we
great.
go.
But one thing I will say though, and that's I have at least one friend in 37 states, but I think Florida must be the most crowded carnival state in the world because I've
Probably.
got when you think about it, I've got Dr. Nelson, Rick Rodriguez, Papa Carnival, John Laspina,
Oh my gosh.
Sandy Blythe. It's just, yeah, I'm surprised there's any room for non-carnivores in Florida, to be honest
I
with you.
didn't
Although,
know that
yeah,
John was from Florida. I was thinking that he was from like California.
no, John Laspina is at Boca Raton in
Okay.
Florida. So there we
Learn
go.
something new every day. Learn
Yeah,
something new every day.
yeah. So
All right.
it's
So
great.
just tell us a little bit about yourself, George. Like, how'd you grow up? And like, what do you do? What did you do for a living? All those
Okay,
kinds of things.
that's a very good question actually, because I had a pretty bad start in life. I was a very unexpected baby. My mother was 41. I was
What?
10 years younger than my nearest sibling.
Oh,
She
wow.
had a damaged cervix, so was unable to birth me naturally. So I was a C-section birth, and I came out as what they call a macrosomic baby. I was nine and a
Mm,
half pounds, so that was any baby over 8 pounds 13 ounces is considered to be a big baby, and I
mm-hmm.
was that. And I'm almost certain, though I can never prove this, that my mother probably had gestational diabetes.
Probably.
And I came out of the womb addicted to sugar. And from the moment I was weaned, all I remember is that I was just was a sugar addict. I really was, which is interesting because I haven't really told this story before because I've never thought of it. But I had massive sinus problems when I was a toddler. I had really
Mm-hmm.
bad catarrh in my sinuses, and I used to get really bad ear infections and really bad abscesses, which used to burst very messily and very painfully. It's
Mm,
only recently that it's occurred to me that this is probably to do with my sugar addiction.
yes.
At the age of 6, I remember this clearly. I had my adenoids out, and then I had grommets in my ears, which kind of
Mm-hmm.
cleared it up a bit. But it was, yeah, I didn't have a good start in life, and I was always obese from the moment I
Mm.
started school up until, well, I've been on and off obese all my life, as we will hear later. So yeah, I was an obese child with severe health problems. I was always in on the sick. So yeah, it wasn't the greatest start in life, but I at the age of 17, I was obese, an obese teenager, quite a late developer. But
Mm.
if I say that at the age of 17, a young man is hormonal and
Mhm.
wishes to receive some attention from the opposite sex, then
Yes.
then my 10-year older brother, who was a super fit athlete and a Marine, actually put me in the year 1983, put me on the 5-2 diet.
Mm.
Now, the 5-2 diet didn't officially come into the language, I think, until 2003, when a guy called Michael Mosley claimed it. But believe me, 20 years before, my brother devised the 5-2 diet for me, which was
Wow.
basically finish eating at 7 o'clock on a Sunday evening, and then for 24 hours it was water only. Then it was liquid only for the next 24 hours, and then you could break your fast at 7 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. So that's
Mm.
kind of 5-2 diet, and sure enough, I rapidly lost 28 pounds, and I became quite trim. So yeah, that, and then basically that allowed me to mix normally with my social peers, and the female attention was sorted out pretty quickly. So that was the reason why I started off as as a yo-yo dieter, and I've been a yo-yo dieter all my life. At the age of 19, I joined the army, and that, obviously, the regime in the army kept me fit for about 5 years. But really, by the age of 24, I was starting to show signs of metabolic dysfunction again, because the army food, as I'm sure anybody from the United States can tell us, is very carb rich. It's all about high energy foods for short term bursts of energy. And so, yeah, by the age of 24, I was pretty much on my way to metabolic dysfunction again. I was becoming quite fat, not really doing very well at the physical side of things. And so I left the army at the age of 27 after the first Gulf War, after Operation Desert Storm. I was pretty disillusioned by war and by the way we were treated when we got back as well.
Yeah.
So I left the army after 8 years and 3 months. And then I went briefly to university, but I had a real bad alcohol problem, as many ex-soldiers do. There wasn't any real after battle care for us back in those days. They didn't really understand the not necessarily PTSD, but I prefer the term hypervigilance, because you become very aware of you're living on the edge all the time, so your cortisol is always raised, and you self-medicate with alcohol, and it's very, very common amongst ex-soldiers. I believe that to be the case in the United States as well.
Do you think, just a quick question about that, because I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that you said that you were addicted to sugar from birth.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that also plays into the propensity to be addicted to alcohol. And, I'm curious about that.
It's entirely possible, because I think I probably have a very addictive character, because my father tried to introduce me slowly to alcohol to make me respect it when I was a teenager, and all he did was give me a taste for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was it was counterintuitive. But I mean, to go back to my childhood, when I was addicted to sugar, when I got my pocket money each week, I used to calculate how much chocolate and sweets I could, or candy, I think, as you guys call it, I could afford. And I actually worked out in the end that chocolate cookies versus chocolate bars I could get more bang for my buck from the chocolate cookies than I could from just buying chocolate bars.
Wow.
So that is a real, I mean, at the age of, I don't know, 10, 11, that is addictive behavior, when you're actually calculating how much sugar you can buy with your pocket money. So yeah, that's a classic case of it. So yeah,
absolutely.
I think the fact that I was an addictive character anyway probably led me to become addicted to alcohol and the cigarettes and the tobacco and everything else, which is very common amongst soldiers. Even to this day, some of the guys that I know from the special forces, who are the fittest guys in the world, they still smoke, and it's it's nothing unusual. So it's I don't it's one of those things that I just accept now, as was kind of, it was part of the culture. And now my culture is obviously very different. I gave up alcohol completely on March the 17th of this year.
Congratulations.
And I will never be going back to it. Bizarrely, I'm leaping well ahead of my story here, but bizarrely, I've been carnivore, or low carb carnivore, for 3.5 years, and yet I stayed as an alcoholic for 3 years of that. but I had amazing results, as we will learn in a minute. And
Amazing.
I am one of those really annoying, confounding factors when it came to alcohol and health, which we will talk about later. Yeah,
Yeah,
but to
that's
go back, yeah,
interesting
yeah.
because they say that, like, drinking alcohol will kind of hijack your results, but it sounds like that didn't wasn't the case for you.
No, because I've got a very funny story to do with that, and yeah,
Okay.
I'll tell you that one later. But
Okay.
that comes very recently.
So
So
somebody in the
yeah,
in the chat was asking, how many years have you been on carnivore? So you just answered that question. That's
yeah.
Julia.
So
Hey,
okay,
Julia.
yeah. So we will go back to we will again jump ahead a little bit, and I will just answer that question.
Okay.
I had my disastrous blood test on March 1st, 2022. I got the
Mm.
diagnosis on March 4th of type 2 diabetes, morbid obesity, and a waistline which, when you doubled it, was 11 inches more than my actual height.
Oh,
So I
wow.
had a waistline of 44 inches. My height was
Mm.
69 inches. So yeah, I was classic metabolic. So yeah,
Mm.
I date my journey back to March 1st, 2022. But I
Okay.
want to go back to where we were with the university. I went to
Yeah.
university, and I basically drank myself out of funds. So I had to leave university. Then I spent a couple of years like bumming around, as we could call it, doing odd jobs. And then I was fortunate enough to get recruited into the international bodyguard scene by being an ex-soldier I speak French and Arabic as well. And I got recruited on a Veterans Day parade by a former Marine who had a team over in Paris. He knew that he found out I could speak French, so he recruited me for that. And I spent a good 10 years in the international bodyguard circuit. Carried on drinking, but a lot of us did. But what we did, we were professional enough never to let it affect our performance. So
Mhm.
if I was doing a 2 week job, I could easily go 2 weeks without touching alcohol. But as soon as I was on leave, that was it. I was back on it again. So there
Wow.
was a kind of a self-discipline, a professional pride there, which sort of kept me off it. But then when I was 40, I'd been married for a couple of years. I found myself over in Beirut in Lebanon, which is quite a famous hostile environment. I was there just after the revolution, and it was a time of hope. But then I came home on leave for a few weeks, and the war kicked off again in Lebanon between Hezbollah and Israel. The airport got bombed. Getting back to Lebanon was just a logistical nightmare. It would have meant me flying into Syria
Mm.
to get back in. And obviously, with my background in the British Army, Syria would have not been a good place for me to go into. So, with great reluctance, I quit and basically then set about at the age of 41, I think I was, set about trying to build a new career locally. And that didn't really work at all. I ended up in a civilian nuclear establishment, where a nuclear power station, basically,
Mm. Mhm.
right in the middle of nowhere. But I was suffering because of Beirut and because of my military background. I was suffering very badly from hypervigilance. I could see so many flaws in our security systems that I tried to flag them up, but I was told that I was only a security guard and basically,
Wow.
keep your nose out of our business. The fact that
Mm.
I was, that I was a counter-terrorism specialist didn't seem to cut it with them.
Wow.
So after 4 years, I was so stressed that I went off sick for 6 months with stress. They wanted to fire me, sack me, but they realized they couldn't. So I basically agreed to leave with with a financial package that would see me through. But I lost a year of my life to depression.
Wow.
I was
Mm.
diagnosed with stress anyway, and I could not work for 11 months. I basically spent that entire time curled up on the end of the bed, going out to do some basic shopping. But then obviously um, my health deteriorated, metabolic health deteriorated very badly. I became very fat, very
Mm.
slow, very full of brain fog. Was
Wow.
able to eventually to return to work as a really basic commercial security guard in in uniform, minimum wage, very long hours, which kept the money ticking over. But it was a miserable existence. It really was, way beneath my what should have been my potential. But it was all I could do at the time because the brain fog was there. I could barely walk because I weighed 293 pounds at 5'9".
Wow.
I was not the human being that I once was. I was a failed human being at that time.
Mm.
And that was 2012 that I actually got discharged from my job there. So it was 10 years later, 2022, that I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and morbid obesity and a huge waistline, and very high triglycerides as well. So 10 years, I effectively lost 10 years of my life
Mm.
to hypervigilance, metabolic syndrome. I was I knew there was something wrong, but I thought it was what they call Gulf War syndrome, because
Mhm.
those of us in Desert Storm, we had a lot of vaccinations, and one of them in particular, the anthrax vaccination, crippled me. And the pain that I was suffering from that was very similar to the pain that I was suffering from the neuropathy associated with metabolic syndrome. So I thought I
Mhm.
had Gulf War syndrome. And I didn't know that I was actually suffering from a different syndrome, which is metabolic syndrome.
Mhm.
So yeah, so
Absolutely.
that brings us neatly up to March 1st, 2022, when I was so worried because I knew that I didn't have much life left in me, and I
Mm.
knew that I had a mortgage which I still got to pay, and I was just worried that that I would be unable to work, unable to, or even worse, still die, uh, and that would leave a real nightmare for my widow, Lainey, behind me. Um, so yeah, so I was desperately trying to get a diagnosis, but because the British government do not want to accept the existence of Gulf War syndrome, I was treated with hostility, contempt by the National Health
Mm.
Service because they thought I was a malingerer who was looking for an easy option.
Yep.
Eventually, I did manage to get the blood tests on March the 1st of 2022. And the unfortunate doctor who was dealing with me made a huge error. When she gave me the results over the telephone, she said, "Oh, when I examined you the other day, she said, I told you about the time." I said, "Hey, you did not examine me. I've never met you before." And she said, "No, no, I definitely examined you the other day." I said,
What?
no, you didn't." And I said, "And this is going to be, I am now going to take legal advice on this because you are lying to me." I got a phone
Mm.
call about 10 minutes later. No apology. She said, "Oh, I made a mistake." She said, "I've noticed that there was a phone icon on my notes, which meant I spoke to you on the telephone, not." So she said, "Right, I need you to come in tomorrow to see me."
Mhm.
So basically, she was trying to dig herself out of a legal hole because she was a recently qualified doctor in a locum. So she
Okay.
realized that her career was about to come to an end before it had even
Mm.
started. And I would have gone
Oh.
through with that because I was disgusted by her behavior. So I went and
Mm.
saw it. In the UK, we usually get 7 minutes consultations with the doctor. She gave me a full hour.
Wow.
Um, yeah, well, she was desperately trying to dig herself out of the hole that she dug for herself.
Mhm.
I had an argument with her over I thought it was my myelin sheath with the problem. I was worried about multiple sclerosis. I think I was probably right about the myelin sheath, to be honest, but it wasn't multiple sclerosis. It was metabolic syndrome. But she
Mm.
basically,
Just for those who may not know, wanna just kinda describe what you mean by myelin sheath?
oh, do you want to do that, Robin? Because I knew at the time, but I can't exactly remember it now. But you probably know better than me, to be honest with you.
So I'm
But they,
thinking that
yeah,
this has to do with, like, plaques on the brain, right?
yeah, exactly.
Uh, yeah. Yep,
I mean,
so
I know that your myelin sheaths are a very important part of your anatomy for keeping everything
right.
functioning. And
I'm gonna
I'd read somewhere that basically once they're damaged, then you get the pains, the aches, and the pains, everything else. And I was
mhm.
suspicious of that, and I was probably right, to be honest with you.
Right.
But she ruled out multiple sclerosis and something else as well. I can't remember what
Okay.
it was now. She said,
Yeah.
but she confirmed that I had type 2 diabetes, was morbidly obese. She told me that I would be chronic and progressive, that I would from now on need to be. She wrote out in that office 2 prescriptions. One of them was definitely metformin. I can't remember if the other one was statins or insulin. And
Mm.
the reason being that I can't in. I was in a position to throw them away a couple of days after that. How did this happen? Well, it was an interesting story. She dismissed me from her office after an hour,
Okay.
and I was clutching I had the prescription in my hand. We literally had the prescription. I was going to go and cash it in at the pharmacy, which was about 50 yards down the road. At that point, my telephone went. I noticed it was a phone call from the same clinic, the same primary care clinic that I was actually studying at the time. I said, hello, and this voice said, George, she said, this is Nurse Kath Moran. Can you come and see me? Now, the doctors were on one side of the clinic, then there was a reception, then the nurses were on the other side. So I
Okay.
said, yeah, sure, I'll come and see you. So I walked through reception, went to her, and she came out and greeted me and said, come on in. So we went on in, and she sat me down and said, I'm not supposed to be doing this, George. She said, but I am a diabetes nurse, and I've heard that you've got type 2 diabetes. I said, yes, that's correct. And the doctor's just given me the prescription. I was still waving it around in my hand. But she actually said, unlike the doctor who told me I was chronic and progressive, she sat me down and she looked me in the eye and she said, what do you eat? She was the
What?
first.
Oh
I
my
know.
gosh. Unheard of.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She was the first person ever to ask me that. So I said,
Mm.
well, I said, I don't really eat sugar. I said, I eat, a lot, all the, what we're supposed to eat, all the savory stuff. I said, I eat pasta, I eat rice, I eat noodles, I eat bread. I eat a lot of bread. I have, big sandwiches. I said, I eat a lot of potato chips, as you call them, crisps, as we call them.
Hmm.
I said, but I don't eat sugar. I said, because I had been diagnosed as pre-diabetic a few years before, and I sorted that out by getting rid of sugar in my tea and getting rid of the cakes and the chocolate and everything. But I couldn't understand why I could be diabetic when I wasn't eating any sugar. And she looked me in the eye not with contempt, not with hostility, but with kindness,
Mm.
almost pity. And she said to me, 4 words. She said, all carbs are sugar. And my immediate reaction was, what, even the savory ones, even the ones that don't taste of sugar? She said, yes, all carbohydrates turn to glucose in your bloodstream, and that is what has given you type 2 diabetes.
Mm.
I had, this was a medical professional who was probably paid about half of what that wretched doctor was paid. And yet she had the guts to tell me to go off message and tell me that all carbohydrates were iron, fat, sugar. Because as you probably know, we're supposed to eat 65% of our diet in carbohydrates and
Right.
about another 20 odd percent in protein. So another 15% in fat, preferably non-saturated fat.
Right. Yep.
What a disaster. So she actually went against the grain. She said, I'm not supposed to be saying this, but basically, so I realized that was a light bulb moment. I'm not an unintelligent person, and that was
Hmm.
enough for me to realize what my problem was. And I thought, I can do this. I immediately thought I can get rid of this. I thought that they're all gone then. And as I left her office, the last words I ever spoke to Kath directly to her face were, we can do this.
Mm.
So I went away and did it. I always forget this part of the story, which is one which I'm quite proud of, in fact. I saw, I can't remember his name now, excellent chap who was influenced by Dr. Sarah Holberg, and I actually spoke to him the other day on one of Kerry's Zoom calls. Sorry, can't
Okay.
remember his name, but he said that he was very emotionally upset by the fact that he never got a chance to thank Sarah for her video.
Yeah. She's changed
Yeah,
a lot of lives, I tell you. That's
exactly.
one of the very first videos. I'm just like getting emotional over it.
Yeah, I know.
because, she
18
changed
minutes, eight,
my,
18 minutes and 6 seconds
oh
of
my God.
life-saving material. I've watched it.
Absolutely.
I've watched it probably 100 times. The TEDx
Yes.
talk of 2015, exactly.
Yes, yes,
Type 2
yes. I'll
diabetes,
make sure we put that link
yeah,
in the
reversing type 2
description.
diabetes starts with ignoring the guidelines. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
the name of it. But that's not, yeah. But it was his saying that he was sorry that he never got a chance to say thank you to Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
yeah.
basically made me realize I had to go and find Kath. She left that surgery. So I tracked her down online, found out which surgery she was at. It's about 12 miles away. And I sent an email to her surgery for her attention, saying, thank you. You saved my life.
Oh
I've,
my
I've,
God.
I've healed myself.
Wow.
Now, she never got back to me personally, but her practice manager, the receptionist, in other words, acknowledged it, said it was fantastic to hear this story, and she would definitely make sure that Kath got that email. So I now know that I was able to
That is
thank her.
so powerful because I think about the instructions that you would get from a dietary perspective, even if you go to a nutritionist with type 2 diabetes, if you're going to, when you go to these nutrition consultations, and their advice is going to be that you should eat so many carbohydrates per meal. I remember, a person that I know that went and, was going to these consultations and they were telling them, yes, eat a snack wrap, go to McDonald's and get a snack wrap. It's small.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's 20 carbs or 30 carbs. I have no idea. But the idea that carbohydrates are not essential and that they're all converting to sugar and glucose in the body, and a type 2 diabetic shouldn't be having any. They shouldn't be having any. So, very
yeah,
interesting.
exactly right, Robin. And now the rest of this story is like a miracle which unfolded. It is the miracle. I call it the miracle. Now I was lucky enough to have a start point because about 10 years previously, I watched a program on the BBC, and it was
Mhm.
called The Hairy Bikers. Now it was two motorcyclists who were also chefs stroke cooks, and they would do programs. They would go around Europe cooking and that sort of thing. But they did one which was focusing on type 2 diabetes and basically cooking for type 2 diabetics
Mhm.
in conjunction with a guy called Professor Roy Taylor from Newcastle University, who's still very much alive and kicking in our world. But he realized that type 2 diabetes was not a life sentence. He had he was a calorie believer, and he went down the low calorie approach. So what
Mm.
he would do, he would put people on 800 calories of low of juices, basically. So
Oh
smoothies,
my
for
gosh.
example. Yeah,
Mhm.
for 8 weeks, and he would find that they would actually come out of type 2 diabetes, because obviously I think that was more the calorie than the low carb effect. But it
Okay.
gave me the start point to start to study. So I did, and yeah, sure enough, it was the low calorie approach. But then I discovered a few online health services like the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Healthline, and they were saying that there was a low carb approach that you could do for type 2 diabetes.
Mhm.
But my next real big one was I went back to work, and I was working in construction, and the guy that was giving me a lift every day was a bulldozer driver. A heavy plant operator. Max Bramford is his name. I'm still friends with him now. Great guy. He dips in and out of carnivore, and I keep on trying to keep him on carnivore, but he does very well on carnivore, and then he'll go on holiday, dip out of it, and then it's just the same old story. But he's very much carnivore aware. But I told him about what had happened, and I knew about Professor Roy Taylor, and I also knew about the Atkins diet at the time.
Mhm.
But then Max Bramford, a bulldozer driver on a building site, not a doctor, not a nurse, not a nutritionist, said to me again, the next step in my recovery, have you ever heard of the ketogenic diet? I said,
Mm.
no, I haven't. He said, right. He said, the ketogenic diet is all about low carb. He heard of it from somewhere. His mother was type 2 diabetic. She struggled to get out of type 2 diabetes, even though she was doing things right, until she discovered that her addiction to grapes was the problem. And he told me
Indeed.
this, and he told me the story of how she did replacement therapy. She switched grapes out for cherry tomatoes, and sure enough, her diabetes went away because of, as we know,
Wow.
tomatoes are low carb. So he was
Wow.
able to talk me through the ketogenic diet, and he recommended fewer than 50 grams of carbs every day. And he taught me how to read labels. I remember I had in my lunchbox, I had a can of soup, you know, the Heinz soup.
Mm-hmm.
It was oxtail, and he picked it up and he looked at the back and he said, "George, there's 28 grams of carbohydrate in this tin." He said
Wow.
that is more than half your allowance of carbohydrates per day on the ketogenic diet. So Max taught me how to count carbs as well as about the ketogenic diet. So I owe him a lot. And I always say at this point in the conversation, isn't it ironic that I got more valuable information from a bulldozer driver than I did from even Kathy Moran? She never told me about the ketogenic diet. I
Right.
suspect she wasn't allowed to.
Probably
Um,
not.
but certainly
Wow.
no doctor ever would have considered mentioning the ketogenic diet to me. So
That is
yeah,
so sad. It's
exactly.
so sad. You
So
wonder if they know. Do they know and are not allowed to say? Or do they just not know, and we're
I
going with a
strongly
standard of
yeah,
practice.
I strongly suspect that Kath knew about it, but she wasn't allowed to say it. So all she could say was all carbs are sugar, and then let me go and find my own way.
Mhm.
Um, doctors, I don't know. I despair of most doctors, to be honest with you, apart from the ones that I know I can trust, and there's very few of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just find it ironic that a construction worker knew more about health, metabolic health, than the idiot doctor who told me that I was chronic and progressive. So I was able to
Yeah.
go away, but what I didn't have at that time was YouTube, because the only thing I knew about YouTube is a great place to find your music, but I didn't
Yeah.
really know about
Right.
anything else. So I relied on Healthline, the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic. They did talk about the ketogenic diet and talk about the low carb approach, but they were very skeptical of it. So they acknowledged the existence, but they said, "Oh, but you're missing vital nutrients, etc., etc." But at least they actually did explain what it was. So I was able to, find my way in. So I got it goes straight away. I got rid of what I call the season peas, chocolate, cookies, candy, cakes, crisps or chips, as you guys call them, and the peas, pizza, pasta, pastry,
Mhm.
potatoes, paella, anything with so the season peas went, but also also bread obviously as well, which I put under the C for cereal. So
Mhm.
and the same with rice as well, because that didn't fit in. So I put rice and bread under cereal, which is a
Right.
C. So yeah, so I got rid of those, and then I knew about the difference between above ground vegetables and underground starchy vegetables. So all
Mhm.
starchy vegetables went as well. So all the beets, the Swedes, the turnips, the root vegetables, they all went out. But I was still carrying on eating all the cruciferous vegetables, all the salad vegetables, because they were low carb, keto,
Right.
great,
Yep.
no problems at all. And also, I carried on eating quite a lot of fruit, citrus fruit as well, oranges and tangerines and that sort of
Mm.
thing.
Okay.
Maybe the odd banana. Certainly, quite a lot of avocado. Definitely cucumber and tomatoes, and onion. So yeah, I was still, making some pretty bad mistakes. Oh, also the dark chocolate. The 85% dark chocolate.
Yep.
I was getting through a bar of that a day as well, because that was keto.
Yep.
So yeah, I was still making some pretty bad mistakes, but, and this is the big but, I was achieving huge success on
Yes.
dirty keto, absolutely massive success. In the
Mhm.
first 4 months, 5 months, I think I lost 56 pounds in
Wow.
weight. So after 5 months, from March the 1st until the end of July, so March, April, May, June, July, 5 months. At the end of July, I requested a cheeky sort of second opinion on the blood test. because I felt that, that I'd made so much progress on the weight loss that I needed to know what was going on in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So I was granted a blood test on August the 4th of 2022, which I went and duly got. I had all my bloods taken, and I was told that I would receive a routine telephone call from
Okay.
my new nurse, who was, because Kath had left by this time, called Richard. And I would receive, I will always remember this, I will receive it at 2 p.m. on the 22nd of August. So, in other words, 18 days after these tests. However, on the 9th of August, I got a phone call from my clinic. I thought, what's going on? So I picked it up, and she said, and the lady said, George, this is Sandy, the head diabetes nurse in your clinic. I said, hello, Sandy. I was worried by this time.
Yeah.
Because obviously I just had a blood test, and this was an urgent telephone call. She said, I need to talk to you urgently. So I assumed that the blood tests had come back terrible, not necessarily diabetes, but maybe something worse, cancer or something, that I'd got things horrendously wrong by going low carb. And I said to her, Sandy, do I need to be worried? She said, no. She said, absolutely the opposite. She said, I just urgently need to speak to you because I need to know what you've done. She said, you 5 months ago you were diabetic. She said, now you are not even pre-diabetic.
What? 5 months?
Yeah. And she said, just to put it into context, in the UK, this is really frustrates me because you guys have a totally different way of measuring diabetes than we do.
Yes, we do.
I can do the conversions. I will do. So in the UK, it's mmol. And basically, once you hit 42 mmol in your HbA1c, you are considered pre-diabetic. 42 to 48 is pre-diabetes. 49 and above is diabetes. I was 50 when I was diagnosed. So I was only just in, but I was in. And I can tell you that was 6.7% in your terms. As you know, that is just into type 2 diabetes, but it's enough for type 2 diabetes. On this, when I got this telephone call, I was 36 mmol, which is 6 points below type 2 pre-diabetes, and translates to 5.4% in your terms. So so she was utterly stunned that I no longer was type 2 diabetic. I reversed type 2 diabetes.
I just have to pause there for 1 second, George, because what you just said is that you reversed your type 2 diabetes while still eating fruit, still eating vegetables.
Yeah.
And, you were just eating a keto diet, 50 carbs or less, and reversed type 2 diabetes.
Plus all the carbs from alcohol as well, which I didn't even count. So I was still carrying on drinking. As I said, I am the confounding, the really annoying carnivore who actually had great success on keto whilst still abusing alcohol. It's I can only report the facts. I certainly do not condone drinking alcohol. But the main reason I don't condone drinking alcohol is what it does to your brain versus, as we will see later, my liver. It was really screwing my brain up once I lost all that fat. There were fewer blood vessels going around, so it got to my brain a lot quicker, and I started losing my memory, becoming very irritable, and falling over very quickly. So alcohol had to go eventually, but not at this stage. Not at this stage. So she basically said, and your triglycerides, she said, you've gone from verging on dangerously high to normal. She said, I just need to know, what have you done? And I said, well, I've gone low carb. And she said, oh, that's interesting. She didn't say what's low carb or anything. She said, that's really interesting.
So she knew about it.
She said, we're kind of low carb friendly at this place. Obviously, they must have been because Kathy was bigger. So she said, this is just amazing. Congratulations. She said, you've lost all that weight. Your waist is much better. The triglycerides. She did say your LDL has gone up, but she said, we don't care about that, which was incredible to me. Yeah, absolutely. She said, why do we not care? Because your HDL has gone through the roof, your triglyceride. And she said, what we're interested in is the HDL to triglyceride ratio. And that was I know. she actually heard of the HDL to triglyceride
That is
ratio.
wild. This is in 2022, right?
This was in 2022,
Wow. Okay.
but even then, I think they were kind of outliers at the time, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
that kind of changed within the space of a year or so. But we'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, she was absolutely congratulatory of me.
Yeah. That's
So
exciting.
so she said, "Yeah, Richard won't need a phone now on the 22nd of August because I've dealt with it. It's dealt with. So yeah, carry on. Go back and do what you're doing. You're doing great." Anyway,
Okay.
2 p.m. 22nd of August, the phone rings, and it's Mike, primary care clinic. I said, "Hello." He said, "George, it's Richard." I said, he said, "I'm not supposed to be making this phone call because Sandy's dealt with this." He said, "But I'm interested." He said, "I need to know what you've done." So I had to explain myself again to Richard. He said, "That's absolutely amazing."
Mhm.
So yeah, so I got massive congratulations from the nurses. No doctor has ever spoken to me since I threw away the prescription, which is no great surprise. So yeah, that was August of 2022. I was supposed to go back for my annual checkup in September of the following year. I arranged it for October. Um, at a certain time, and working in construction, it took a lot of logistics to organize a day off. So I organized a day off, and I think I was due to have a 9:15 blood test at 0840 hours. They phoned me and said, "We're going to have to cancel. We
Hmm.
haven't got enough people." No apology, nothing else
Hmm.
like that. I said, "I've taken a day off work to come see you." They said, "Well, go into work then." I said, "No, it doesn't work that way. I work a long way away. My day starts at 7 o'clock, and they've replaced me for the day." Oh, well, nothing we can do about that. The arrogance and the rudeness of the National Health Service in this country is absolutely astounding. It really is. We're
Wow.
supposed to worship them. We're supposed to think they are wonderful people who sacrifice their time and energy, don't get paid enough. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm probably going to upset quite a few people if we've got any Brits watching because they are wonderful people. Apparently, no, they're not. Not in my
Mm.
direct experience.
Wow.
Anyway, so
Bad.
I had to reschedule this appointment for January. And when I went in, I discovered probably the most rude, arrogant person I've ever met in my life. I won't name her, but she was a diabetes nurse, not one of the original team that I got on so well with.
Mm.
Um, Horrible person, truly horrible person. The first thing
Wow.
she said was, "Why have you left it so long between appointments?" I said, "I was booked in for October." So, well, why didn't you come then? I said, "Because you cancelled me." She
Wow.
she said, "Well, obviously we were too busy on that day." Again, zero apology. It was my fault. It seemed for
Why are you
leaving.
making me mad over here, George? You're making me mad.
Well, believe me, I was furious
Oh
at the
my
time.
word.
So anyway, we looked at my original blood test from March the 1st, and then it was like, "Oh shit, oh yeah, you've lost a bit of weight, and yeah, you took diabetes, you're okay." In fact, she wasn't going to do that. I had to make her do it, so to give her an idea of what she was dealing with, but she wasn't impressed at all. And I'd lost a load more weight and that, and she took my blood test and said, "Right, okay, I'm going to send this off to the labs, and if there's anything wrong, you will hear from us." I said, "Hang on a second, what happened to my follow-up call?" "Oh, we don't do that. We don't do that anymore," she said. "We haven't got time."
Hmm.
She said, "You will have to go onto the National Health Service app on your phone in order to get your results." I said, "Well, how do I get that?" She said, "I don't know." She said, "It's on there somewhere." So I
Mhm.
said, "Well, I don't know either. I'm not very good at it." She said, "Oh, go and see reception. They'll tell you." So basically, I was dismissed from her office, and I went and saw reception. I said, "I've just been sent to see you to get the NHS app so I can get my results, which I'm entitled to legally." And the receptionist rolled her eyes. It was clearly it was too much of
Oh
a
my.
bugbear for her. It was far too. She was far too busy and far too important to bother with some idiot like me.
Oh my
So
god.
she said, "Well, show me your photo ID." I said, "I didn't bring a photo ID." She said, "Well, I can't do it without a photo ID." I said, "Hang on a second. You have just let me in to have somebody jab a needle in my arm on the strength of my address and my age, my
Mhm.
name. And now you want a photo ID." She said, "Yes, I have to have a photo ID. It's protocol." She was lying. Um,
Mm.
but I said, "This is not going to happen. So thank you so much for your time," being as sarcastic as I could without actually being overtly rude. And I said, it's not going to happen. So I just left. And I never got those results. Uh, but
That is
sure
great.
enough, but sure enough, I did. There was something wrong. Remember how I said things changed in between the two? I got a text from a doctor I'd never heard of, never met, never will meet, and never want to meet. Can't remember
Mm.
his name. I don't care. He said you have significantly raised cholesterol at 7.1, which translates to about 275 in American terms. We would like to offer you a statin. Basically,
Mm.
this doctor who didn't want to talk to me, didn't want to discuss with me. I've never heard of him. I couldn't picture him now. He'd never spoken to me in his life. I believe it's what Dr. Tony Hampton calls a drug dealer instead of a healer.
Mm.
This
Okay.
guy was a shameless cartel orientated drug dealer.
Wow.
And he was trying to sell me a statin on the basis. He didn't mention the fact that all my other results must have been okay, which I later found out they were. He just wanted to sell me drugs. So I ignored the text. I've actually kept the text. I've got it on my phone, and I keep it for posterity so that I can
Mhm.
ridicule these morons. Yeah. So it's so that was January of 2024. Then luckily in April of 2024, my wife Lainey noticed over in her surgery, her clinic, that they were advertising they wanted veterans. They wanted to go on their books. They were veteran friendly. So I applied to transfer to them, and on the strength of the fact that I was a veteran, got accepted.
Okay.
So yeah, in September of that year, they called me forward for my birthday blood tests. So on September the 26th, I went for those. And I walked into a healthcare assistant's office who actually did all the assessment on me. Her name was Vicky, lovely, lovely girl, and I knew that I was going to have an argument because she would ask me how, what I ate and that sort of thing. So I was in there very defensive, and she said, "Oh, you got amazing results from your last two blood tests." She said, "How did they do it?" I said, "I'm carnivore. I'm very low carb. I'm keto." And she said, "Oh, that's really interesting." She said, my son is type 1 diabetic, so we're ketogenic in our household. I was utterly gobsmacked because I was expecting the big pushback,
Yep.
But she lived in a ketogenic household because her son was type 1 diabetic.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
actually showed her the video on YouTube, which was Dr. Berry and type 1 diabetes, and she was very
Mhm.
interested and was going to go home and look at it. I haven't spoken
Yeah.
to her since, but that was really good. But there's a couple of funny stories involved with this one, and that's one of them was she had to do a neuropathy test on my feet. So she got a sort of a little needle type thing, but it was kind of a tickling stick, I suppose you want to call it. So she leant over and tickled my toes, and was sort of like looking for a reaction from me, making sure there was a reaction in my well, she wasn't prepared for the reflex action, which basically I got a classic reflex. My leg shot upwards, and she actually had to jump. So she had to jump backwards. So she said, clearly you do not have peripheral neuropathy.
Right.
And yeah, so and then the next thing she had to do was take the pulse in my ankle. So she put on an electronic stethoscope with a like a stethoscope, and she put it against where my pulse was in my ankle. And again, she leapt backwards because basically my pulse was so loud that it was actually it disturbed her ears
Oh
because
my god.
she had the headphones on. And she said that is the loudest foot pulse I've heard in anybody, diabetic or not. So she said, clearly there's no circulation problem with you.
Good,
So she
good.
was very impressed, and she took the weights. Said, "Yeah, you lost more weight." Took the bloods and sent
Yeah.
them off. Got called in. I got called in to nurse Abby on October the 9th. Got called in, and she said, "George, what can I say?" She said, "You are the most spectacular success story of reversing type 2 diabetes I have ever
Amazing.
seen in my own personal career."
Wow.
So we went through the blood test, and everything was absolutely perfect. She was absolutely delighted, said that is 3 perfect tests in a row. Therefore, as far as the NHS is concerned, you are cured of type 2 diabetes. So that was me declared cured of type 2 diabetes.
Congratulations. That is amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, from chronic and progressive, To
to cure
cured is amazing,
in
incredible.
March the 1st, 2022 till October the 9th, 2024. So 2.5 years.
Wow,
And I was
incredible,
declared, but
incredible.
I was out of diabetes a long time before that. But they
Mhm.
had to wait 2.5 years before they could declare me. But
Wow.
here comes a funny story about the alcohol. At that time, I was still a functioning alcoholic, high functioning alcoholic. I was drinking 70 plus units a week, at least 7 bottles of wine a week.
Wow.
Maybe I was drinking 5 days a week. On some nights, on a work night, I drink 1 bottle of wine, and then the weekends I would drink maybe 2, sometimes 3 bottles of wine a day. So my liver should have been shot. There's no question
Mhm.
about that. She went to the liver function test and said, "Oh, that's brilliant." She had perfect liver function test, and she moves on. And yeah, I
Wow.
know, yeah. I said, Abby,
Wow.
Abby, at this point, when we come to, I know the routine. You're supposed to ask me how much alcohol I drink a week. And she said, well, clearly you're a non-drinker, George, because you have a perfect liver function test. I said, Abby, I drink 70 plus units a week. And she laughed. She thought I was taking the mickey out of her. She thought I was having a joke with her.
Mhm.
And I had to give her the George sincere stare. And I said, no, Abby, I'm telling you the truth. And I described to her what I drank. But at this point, I was conscious of carbohydrates in wine. So I was drinking very dry white wine, and I was
Mm.
drinking very low carbohydrate beer, and maybe gin. I wasn't drinking any of the dark like port or the carbohydrate rich alcohols. So
Yeah,
I was carb conscious when it came to my alcohol. But the fact of the matter
interesting.
was, I was drinking 70 units plus of alcohol a week to return a perfect liver test. Now,
Mm.
this I know that there's going to be a lot of pushback out there from the community, and I will say that I do not condone drinking alcohol because it is a neurotoxin, and it
Right.
certainly had a bad
Yes.
effect on my brain. However, my
Mhm.
liver was in perfect working order. Now, to me, this tells me that alcohol has been basically arrested, tried, convicted, and jailed for the crimes of carbohydrate, or more specifically, fructose. Because by this time I realized that fructose was the main danger to the liver, because
Yeah.
it cannot be metabolized in the same way as glucose. Even it has to be metabolized in the same way as alcohol. So I was fructose free, but I was alcohol heavy. But my fatty liver had gone, and my liver malfunction had gone. So what does that tell me?
Interesting.
It tells me that I took one for the team for 3 years, and that basically alcohol is not the mortal enemy of the liver that everybody thinks of it is, and it's fructose and carbs that are. Everybody's going to say, well, yeah, but everybody knows that alcohol causes cirrhosis of the liver.
Mm.
Does it? Because a lot of the people who were diagnosed with cirrhosis, who were heavy alcoholics, what were they eating?
Right.
What were these people eating? Because remember, a lot of the diagnosis of cirrhosis of the liver through alcohol was happening during the 1960s, 70s, and 80s,
Mhm.
when ultra processed foods came in, and after our friend Ansel Keys. Now, I know that as an alcoholic and a pub goer, I used to rely on takeaway foods because
Mhm.
it was easier. Sandwiches, that sort of thing. So typically, a night on the beer for me would end with a curry with rice. It would end with a pizza. It would end with a pasta dish. So or a kebab with pita bread. So I know that alcoholics are very very carb and seed oil heavy.
Yeah.
So that everybody was blaming the fact they're alcoholics, but nobody was looking at what they were actually eating. So this is my theory that basically alcoholics do get cirrhosis of the liver, but they get it through what they're eating, not through what they're drinking. Now, if they're drinking Jack Daniels and Coke, yeah, fine, because the Coke is what's giving them the fatty liver, not the Jack Daniels.
Right.
Anyway, I'm going to get a lot of pushback
I
from the
think that
community
this
about
is
this,
true. You think about people who have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and end up with cirrhosis, and
exactly,
basically the same disease process that alcoholics go through, and they're basically their organs, shut down and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. And they've
exactly,
never
yeah,
even had alcohol, or maybe
precisely.
they
Which is
might have had it when
another,
they were a
which is
teenager or
yeah, yeah,
something.
exactly. But which is another thing which makes me think that this evidence of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease made me think that the doctors were barking up the wrong tree with alcohol all those years for the cirrhosis.
Yeah.
It was in fact what they were eating alongside it. For example, the Harvard red meat study, it's blaming red meat for diabetes and that, because they're saying, yeah, you're a red meat eater because you were eating a pepperoni pizza, because you
Or
were
you're
eating,
eating a burger with the bun.
yeah,
Come on
exactly,
now.
yeah. So it's just it's kind of like
Yeah.
that. I think alcohol is getting the same blame as red meat did for
Yeah.
what was happening alongside it. But
Right.
again, I want to stress the best policy for optimal health is to stay the hell away from alcohol, because it is
Completely
a
agree.
neurotoxin.
Well, we're
Um,
definitely not
yeah,
advocating for alcohol,
no,
but
exactly, yeah.
certainly
I just want
root
to, I just
yeah.
want to reinforce that
When you
fact
get
that
to the
I'm,
root cause
yeah,
of what is really, really causing all of these disease states and all of these problems, it really is sugar. You mentioned fructose. Fructose is really dangerous. And
yeah,
so we definitely understand that a lot of different things are getting blamed for what sugar did. You know, salt is getting blamed. Now we're talking about alcohol potentially, but I mean, people are not being carb conscious around drinking
no,
alcohol. They
exactly,
drink what they like.
precisely, yeah. The mixers are lethal. The Coca Colas and the orange juices of this world,
Yes,
and especially what they eat alongside it as well. Because
exactly.
classic, if you when you're in the pub in this country, you would have a packet of what you call Lay's chips. We call them Walker's crisps. That is the classic, accompaniment to a pint of beer or
Yeah,
peanuts,
right.
or that sort of thing. And I know that in a packet of Walker's crisp Lay's, there's about 25 grams of carbs. You have 3 of those a night, and you have 75 grams of carbs straight away. And that's before you go out for your rice and your pasta afterwards. Yeah, so
Exactly.
that's just an interesting point. It's quite an amusing story.
Yeah.
Um,
We're gonna
and
we're
so,
gonna run out of time. I just want to ask you a
oh,
couple of
okay, yeah,
questions.
yeah,
I
please do
want to
so.
do a I want to have you talk to us a little bit about Carnivore Sunday School, and how did that come about, and what is it, and then
Absolutely.
where can people find you?
Okay, so Carnival Sunday School was born not in our not on John Espina's channel. It was actually born on Larry Allhand's channel, the Carnival
Mm,
Soldier, way back, because he used to do
yeah,
something
that's
called
right.
the Wednesday, the Hump Day Meetup, on a Wednesday evening. But when he decided to take a holiday in June, July of 24, John picked it up and called it Wednesday Night School,
Mm-hmm.
which he ran for quite some time. And then Larry, I remember when he did, it was on September 2nd of 24, notified me, because he and I are very good friends. And he said, I'm not coming back, George. He said, I feel my channel has run its course. So I then notified John that Larry wasn't coming back. And he carried on with Wednesday Night School for a few months. But then he stopped it really, and went off to do interviews, one of which was mine in January. And then
Mm-hmm.
in May of 24, he wanted to do a follow-up interview with me, because I'd given up alcohol, and I told him and he wanted to talk to me about that. But we kind of fired emails across the pond, and I said, well, why don't we go back to Wednesday to do another panel show, like, to take over from Hump Day Meetup or Wednesday Night School. That's a really
Mm-hmm.
good idea, he said. So yeah, so Carnival Sunday School was born from Larry Allhand's Wednesday night, the Hump Day Meetup.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud to say, Robin, that you were one of our very first guests on the reborn Carnival Sunday School. It was
Yes.
back in the day when we were having 2 guests at the time. It
Mm-hmm.
was myself and John, and then 2 guests, and you were on with my great friend Dawn Bahuda, wrestling witch face from
Mm-hmm.
Southern California. I
Yes,
expect you remember her well. Yeah.
I do.
But then our very first guest on Sunday School Carnival was the wonderful mutual friend of ours called Stephanie Taylor.
Yes, I love
Do you remember?
her.
Yeah, do you remember the funny story when Steph got the time and date wrong to come on your channel, and I had
Yes.
to go in the chat and say sorry, but I'll tell Steph, and you're able to sort it out. But yeah, Stephanie is wonderful. She's one of my very best friends in the
Beautiful
carnival world.
human being. Mhm.
Absolutely, yeah. So she was our first guest, and then I can't remember exactly what happened, but she came on. She came on as a guest again, and then somehow she stayed. And and she suddenly
Love it.
became the school secretary. John's
Oh,
the
I love it.
headmaster, the principal. I'm the deputy principal, and suddenly we found ourselves with a school secretary.
Nice.
And then we decided that because we had 3 hosts, then we would cut it down to 1 person as a guest, which is the format which has happened ever since. And it's great until our guest let us down, because our guest for tomorrow night has actually let us down and said she can't make it.
Oh, no.
But don't worry.
Yeah, it's supposed to be me. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't worry, Robin, because I know you're coming back in January, and
Will be
what a
I'll be there.
wonderful community we have in the carnivore community, and the
Yes.
fantastic Lewis Latito has jumped
Nice.
in your place.
Thanks,
So
Lewis.
that's great. So yeah, tomorrow we got Lewis, and just a big shout out on December the 28th. We have at 1 p.m. Eastern time, Sunday the 28th of December. We're going to have a very memorable one, because we're going to have the enigmatic, the charismatic Dr. Robert Kiltz on with us.
Nice.
Who's
awesome.
recently become a very good friend of mine, because he came to visit us in England, and it was my job to look after him for the day. So I spent a lot of face-to-face time with Dr. Kiltz, and that's quite an experience,
awesome.
because if you think that he's energetic on screen, try spending 3 hours in a car with him when it's just we put the world to rights and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's the history of Carnival Sunday School. So absolutely delighted to tell you about that. And yeah, just a quick word on what I do now within the carnivore community. I am Kerry has appointed me the UK ambassador to Healing Humanity, and so I give a weekly report from the UK to him every week. Dr. Kiltz has christened me his troublemaker, and that's pretty good coming from the world's biggest troublemaker. I'm very proud of that one.
Right.
As you know, I'm an already qualified Kiltz health coach, but I was invited back to sit the second course, to reset the course anyway, and I'm on that course with you, which is an absolute pleasure.
That's right.
What else do I do within the community? Those are the 2 main things, and Carnival Sunday School, obviously. Oh, and I also organise I was myself and a guy called Carl Day. We organised the first ever Great British Meetup last year, which is happening again this year. We've moved it back from August to June to stay away from the school holidays. It's all booked. We're ready to go, and I'm proud to say that I've got a massive invasion from America coming in. Well, I say massive. There's about 5 or 6 people already, including awesome. my new friend Dr. Robert Kiltz.
Nice.
And also the wonderful coach Juliet Edens and her husband Doug. They're coming over to stay. Mark Caldwell from Woodstock, Georgia. He was over here last year. He's coming again. Angela Lero, the fantastic Angela Lero from LA. She's a great friend of Dr. Kiltz and Kerry, and she's very active in our space. A real warrior in our space. So she's coming over as well. And I strongly suspect there will be others coming over. So very much looking forward to that. And I'm also working very closely with Lee Copus. Been talking to him today because we want to have a premiere of Healing Humanity over here when the film comes out.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've identified a suitable location, which is on a beef farm where Lydia, who the hostess is herself a carnivore, who is actually coming on Carnival Sunday School on January the 4th. And she has this wonderful big barn, which doesn't have any windows. So we can actually create a cinema there. She says she'll hire a screen.
Wonderful.
We can get about 100 people in there. It's about 15 minutes from Lee Copus's house, because Kerry wants Lee to be the British host for Healing Humanity. So just in case any of the American team can't come over, we have Lee can host it, because obviously he is one of the stars of Healing Humanity anyway. Obviously, I will be there as my role of UK ambassador. Lydia will be there as the hostess, and you can guarantee that Richard will be there. Richard Smith, Stephen Thomas, Phil Escott, Stephanie. You name it. The who's who of the British Carnival world.
Awesome.
So I think obviously we're running short of time. I think I've covered pretty much my healing story, the Carnival Sunday School story, and my role as basically an ambassador in the carnival community. If I do have a channel, Good Enough for You, which I kind of have lots of stuff that I use it as a news broadcast, but not interviews. And also you'll find me on Facebook, George Goodenough. I'm more active on Facebook, so come and find me. But if you come and find me, make sure you tell me you're a carnivore. I reject people who I don't recognize as carnivores, if you see what I mean. Anyway, that's it, Robin. So sorry I've overrun, but
Oh, no,
here
no,
we go.
no, that is fine. You guys make sure that you go and subscribe to George's channel
Rick's,
and follow up.
Rick has just come on as well. Hi, Rick. So
Hey,
nice to see you,
Rick.
mate. And whenever
Oh, we did have a question. Do you have time to answer?
Whenever Rick comes on, I always have to give him a fly pass. It's a tradition that we. So
Quack.
yeah, exactly. A quack
We
master.
have a question. Do you have time to answer one?
Yeah, cool. I've got all the time in the world. It's you I'm worried about, not me.
All right,
I've got loads
perfect.
of time.
So Julia wants to know, what are the 3 things that you want to say to new carnivores?
It used to be 3. It used to be the 3 pillars. It's now the 4 pillars. Have a strong
Okay.
why. Have a strong reason. Mine was type 2 diabetes. And
Yep.
what I failed to say was that just before I got diagnosed, I'd lost 2 friends, very good friends. One of whom was 59 years old, dropped dead at the bottom of the stairs. The other one of whom was 69 years old, dropped dead on his kitchen floor. Very strong
Mhm.
why. I knew that I was next, and I didn't want to leave Lainey behind. I didn't want to leave the world. I wanted to live. I chose to live.
Yeah.
Second one, and this is the most recent one, mindset. You have to change your mindset. You have to unlearn everything you've learned.
Yes.
Dr. Kiltz has helped me change my mindset. He's taught me how to be the lion, not the sheep, not to follow the herd, but to actually think for myself, and to have faith, because I was always a faithless person. I studied religion, but I never had faith. Now I
Wow.
believe. Now I believe you. And like Dr. Kiltz, you can call it what you want. You can call it God. You can call it destiny. You can call it the universe. But the universe, things are happening for a reason.
Yeah.
There is a higher power, if you like, behind the scene, which is when things appear like they're going wrong, it usually means that another door is opening somewhere, and things are going wrong to allow that door to open. Trust the process.
Yeah.
A lot of new carnivores want immediate results, but it's a long process. So trust it. Just stay consistent. So that's mindset. Unlearn everything you've learned. Don't trust the establishment. Trust yourself. Trust your fellow carnivores like Dr. Kiltz, like Robin, like myself, like everybody in this chat tonight.
Yeah.
Trust us. Right, that's 2. 3 is research. I have done literally thousands and thousands of hours of research in the last 3.5 years. I now have a much deeper, better education than any doctor who did 4 years at university, because
Right.
they have not done the hours of research that I have done into metabolic health. And I'm quite confident to say that I am what they call a self-educated person. I'm actually listening to a series called Deep World about self-educated people and how dangerous we are to the establishment, because we do not fit into the establishment, and we are not dependent on the establishment for our living. Therefore, we can say what we like and we can learn what we like. They hate us. So yeah, research, and finally community. Basically, I didn't find the community until August 23, so 18 months in. My very first friend in the carnivore world was Larry Allhands, carnivore soldier. My second friend on October the 30th that year was Lauren Tucker, who is one of the stars of Healing Humanity. She lives not far from me. Me and Lauren got together and we merged a couple of WhatsApp groups. So the UK group carnivore community started growing. And then that reached a point where we were able to, myself, Lauren, and a couple of other people were able to have the Great British Meetup last year. And then this year, I've concentrated on befriending the US community, and I'm well known. I'm better known now actually in the US community.
Yes, you are.
So,
You out
so
here
yeah,
famous.
it's all about community, folks. It really
Yes,
is,
it is.
because we support each other, and not only that, but we have fun. You know, me and Rick are always having a laugh together. For example, you know, I was just giving them the usual fly pass with the duck. And on the Kiltz Health, the Kiltz 6 a.m. live every morning, it is sometimes it's chaos in chat, because everybody is taking the mick out of each other. Everybody is having a laugh with each other. I mean, the other day, there was a very serious conversation going on, and Ali and my wife Lainey were talking about their favorite Christmas films. This is not exactly a carnival conversation, but
Right.
but Lainey said that she and I are actually going on Tuesday, the 23rd of December, to go and see the Muppets Christmas Carol in our
Nice.
local cinema. And Ali said, "Oh, I love the Muppets Christmas Carol." She said, "What other thing?" You know, and there was this, like, Dr. Kills was having this proper conversation with somebody quite serious. Meanwhile, Ali and my wife having this great fun conversation. So yeah,
Yes.
two levels to the Kilts Health 6 a.m.s every morning. There's what's going on screen, and there are some serious questions from the crowd, but there's also a lot of fun going on there as well. So it's
That's
all.
true.
And then
Yeah.
Erin Booby Goats, she goes on live 2 hours later, and that is all about chat and all about, yeah, there's a bit of carnivore on there, but it's more about what we're doing, what our days are like, and how what are we doing for fun. So yeah, so number 4 to answer that question,
Mm-hmm.
3 things I've given you 4, and the last one is the community. Get
Yeah.
involved with the community. I'm a member of the KMT, Kills Mighty Tribe, which is
Yeah.
an app which you can get online, and I'm also a member of healinghumanity.life. $30 a month,
Yes.
£22.50, and that is the best $30 a month I spend, because the Zoom calls on there are absolutely amazing. There's about a dozen a week, and all the courses you can do, and it's great because you can just jump on with the people you've heard of, and you think
Yeah.
you'll never get to meet, such as Kerry, Adam Lacey, and Lynn Devoki. Yeah, we have this weekly meeting in which we have a chat, and it's absolutely wonderful. So please
It
go out
is.
and do it. Come and join us, or
Come
or uh,
join us.
or join Robin's group, or Steak and Butter Girl, Bella Ma, SBG, all the PhD, Ken Berries, all Sean
So
Bakers.
many
There are so many.
options to choose
My
from,
my
really.
my chosen 2 are Healing Humanity and the KMT, and I haven't got time to
Yeah.
anymore, to be perfectly Robin. So yeah, that's those are my 4 points. So yeah,
Well, thank you
that's
so much
great.
for being here tonight, George. I know it's late over there, and so I appreciate you. I definitely appreciate all your contributions to the community. Community is everything, you guys. And so that is why I launched my coaching practice. So
Yeah, absolutely.
if you are interested, hey, January is right around the corner. It's World Carnivore Month. It's an amazing time to get started on your sugar-free journey. And
Absolutely.
as
Yeah.
George just told us, all carbs are sugar. Keep that
Yeah.
in mind. Come and see my YouTube, my website at carnivorousgrama.com if you're interested. I'd love to have a chat with you and talk about how you can change your life. We're not
Absolutely.
doctors,
Yeah.
we're not medical practitioners, but what we
But
did
we
is we
are
changed our
coaches.
life,
Yeah.
right?
We are entitled to encourage, empower, and there's another E, and I can't remember what it is, but we're not allowed to diagnose, we're not allowed to
Right.
prescribe, but we
Exactly.
encourage and empower people, basically.
Yes.
Encourage,
Absolutely.
empower, and educate. Those are the 3 that
Yes,
we're,
that's
we're
right.
entitled to
And
do.
that's what it's all about is
Exactly. Yeah.
learning how you can utilize lifestyle change to change your life for real.
Yeah. And just if I can just actually, I forgot to mention the fact that I was going to launch my own coaching project. I call myself a lifestyle coach, a ketogenic lifestyle coach, not a health coach, lifestyle, because I actually believe that mindset is as much to do with the. So I want to capture the whole lifestyle. I was
Yes.
going to launch in January, but I'm back on my day job, which is very well paid, and that
All
ends in
right.
April. So, but there'll be a bit of snagging. I'll probably finish that at the end of May. I then
Mhm.
have to basically concentrate on carnivore in June. So I'll be taking June off to host the Great British Meetup.
Right.
And then in August, I go back to Wyoming, hopefully for the Rendezvous City Beef Roundup. Yeah, we need to talk about that, Rob, because I think you're in August as well in Kalamazoo, aren't you? But we'll talk about that in
That's
the future.
right. Well,
Yeah,
September 5th. Mine is September 5th. Impact is September 5th, 2026. It's Labor
lovely.
Day
Okay.
weekend.
Yeah,
It's the weekend. Come on, travel over here and see me in Kalamazoo for Impact. It's going to be so
it's
awesome.
possible because I've got an idea that I might be in Wyoming the week before. So
Woo,
if I could possibly afford it, I would extend my
oh
trip
my
to come down
gosh.
and see you in
Yes, yes,
Kalamazoo.
yes.
Yeah, so there we go. Right, what was I going to say? Yeah, so basically, no, it is my intention to launch a coaching company, an LLC, as you guys call it, in
Mhm.
July of next year. I
Oh,
was going to do
wow.
it in January
Exciting.
this year. So those people who think that I've given up on the coaching career, no, I haven't. I
Okay.
just delayed it because
Yeah.
it makes financial sense for me. Because the most important thing for me to do is go earn enough money now to be able to take June off and to come to the United States in August, maybe September.
Yay.
Maybe I'll hang on. Maybe I'll go and do
Oh, that'd be awesome.
the Rendezvous City Beef Roundup, and then the following weekend it'll be you guys. So who
Oh my
knows?
gosh.
Who
Don't
knows?
get me
Who
all
knows?
excited.
We'll have to see.
All right,
Right.
you
Anyway,
guys.
that is it. That's my.
That's
I think that
it.
really has covered everything.
We'll be back next weekend with Emily Penton. And for now, we
Oh,
will see you
MS.
guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. MS.
Yes.
Yeah, MS sufferer. Yeah, she's
Yes.
a great friend of mine called Rebecca Johnson, and also Diane Lads. All three of them got great MS stories. Emily's is fantastic, so highly recommend that.
All right, you guys. We'll see y'all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.